because night has come again, and so have you. This is part 3 now of reading Dead Poet Society, and I'm having a lot of fun. I wanted to start this video off by saying thank you. I recently checked part 1, and it's accumulated quite the number of views. It's a lot for me, and it appears we're growing a little bit of a community in the comment section, which is what I keep on looking over at. And I wanted to start off by giving some specific thank yous. I'm still quite ill. It hasn't been that much time since the last video, so I hope you can excuse me if I have a little brain fog like that. Sorry. But yes, I wanted to say a couple thank yous. So I just wanted to say thank you to Paige Bill, to Ollie Joe, to Selma 78543, who says I want to be your friend so bad. And I would like to say thank you to, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, what do you call it, a name tag? Which is silly because I'm reading YouTube videos and I can't read them. But it's Lorxia810. I hope if that's you, then you know what I'm talking about. Sea Hot Mess. That's how I read it. So I hope that's what it is. That's another one. Starry Pinks. I was just about to read my own because I pinned my own comment. And then I wanted to say specific thank you to Sunny D7D. I noticed that you've commented on part 1 and part 2. So thank you for coming back. And thank you to Mary Poppins 9318. Who keeps on talking about tea because of my tea. Comment how you take your tea. But yes, it's beautiful. I think we should create the comment section to be a little community conversation, because it seems that we're using these videos to fill in those moments before sleep when we can't. And what better way to spend it than listening to a good book and communicating. So I just wanted to start the video by saying thank you. So yeah, Dead Poet Society Part 3. We last read, ended off with chapter 5. And we were introduced to Mr. Keating officially and his unorthodox teaching methods, both inspiring. And I think it scares the boys a little, intriguing them. And we were introduced to a personal storyline favourite of Knox going to the Danbury's house and meeting a girl that he very much likes. So yes, I've took 5 minutes to talk at the start. I hope you don't mind. But yes, when you take a moment to press pause and also always get comfortable and enjoy the reading. Sorry for the cut. I like to think of these videos as one uncut video, but I'm going to keep on blowing my nose, so you might see some cuts. But yes. Chapter 6. McAllister pulled out a chair next to Keating at the teacher's dining table and sat down. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, as he plopped his huge frame into the seat and signalled to a waiter for service. "My pleasure," Keating smiled. He looked out at the room filled with blazer-clad boys eating lunch. "Quite an interesting class you had today, Mr. Keating," Mr. McAllister said, sarcastically. Keating looked up. "Sorry if I shocked you." "Oh, no need to apologise," McAllister said as he shook his head, his mouth already filled with the mystery meat of the day. "It was quite fascinating, misguided though it was." Keating raised his eyebrows. "You think so?" McAllister nodded. "Undeniably. You take a big risk encouraging them to be artists, John. And when they realise they're not the Rembrandts or Shakespeares or Mozarts, they'll hate you for it." "Not artists, George," Keating said. "You missed the point. Free thinkers." "Ah," McAllister laughed. "Free thinkers? At 17? I hardly pegged you for a cynic," Keating said, sipping a cup of tea. "Not a cynic, my boy," McAllister said knowingly. "A realist. Show me the heart unfettered by foolish dreams, and I'll show you a happy man." He chewed a bite. "But I will enjoy listening to your lectures, John," McAllister added. "I'll bet I will." Keating grinned with amusement. "I hope you're not the only one who feels that way," he said, glancing at several of the boys from the junior class who were seated nearby. The boys all turned as Neil Perry walked quickly into the dining room and sat down with them. "You guys won't believe this," he said, puffing breathlessly. "I found his senior annual in the library." Neil looked towards Keating, who was engaged in animated conversation with Mr. McAllister at the teacher's table. He opened the annual and read, "Captain of the soccer team, editor of the annual, Cambridge bound, man most likely to do anything, Thigh man, dead, Poet Society." The others tried to grab the old annual. "Thigh man?" Charlie laughed. "Mr. K was a hellraiser, good for him." "What is the Dead Poet Society?" Knox asked as he leafed through the old book of Keating's Welton class. "Any group pictures in the annual?" Meeks asked. "Not of that," Neil said as he studied the captions. "No other mention of it." Neil looked through the annual as Charlie nudged his leg. "Nolan!" he hissed as the dean approached. Neil passed the book under the table to Cameron, who immediately handed it over to Todd, who looked at him questioningly, then took it. "Enjoying your classes, Mr. Perry?" Nolan asked as he paused at the boys' table. "Yes, sir, very much," Neil said. "Now, Mr. Keating, finding him interesting, boys?" "Yes, sir," Charlie said. "We were just talking about it, sir." "Good," Nolan said approvingly. "We're very excited about him. He was a Rhodes Scholar, you know." The boys smiled and nodded. Nolan walked to the other table. Todd pulled out the annual from under the table and leafed through it on his lap as he finished lunch. "I'll take the annual back," Neil said to Todd as they got up to leave the dining room. "What are you going to do with it?" Todd asked hesitantly. A little research, Neil said, smiling smugly. After classes, Neil, Charlie, Meeks, Pitts, Cameron, and Todd headed back to the dorm together. They spotted Mr. Keating wearing a sport coat and a scarf, walking across the lawn with an armful of books. "Mr. Keating!" Neil called after him. "Sir? Oh, Captain, my captain!" Keating stopped and waited for the boys to catch up with him. "What was the Dead Poets Society, sir?" Neil asked. For a split second, Keating's face reddened. "I was just looking at an old annual," Neil explained, "and nothing wrong with research," Keating said, regaining his composure. The boys waited for him to say more. "But what was it?" Neil pressed. Keating looked around to make sure that no one was watching. "A secret organization," he almost whispered. "I don't know how the present administration will look upon it, but I doubt the reaction will be favorable." His eyes scanned the campus as the boys held their breaths. "Can you boys keep a secret?" They nodded instantly. The Dead Poets Society was a society dedicated to sucking the marrow out of life. And that phrase is by Thoreau and was evoked in every meeting. He explained. A small group of us would meet at the old cave, and we would take turns reading Shelley, Thoreau, Whitman, our own verse, and the enchantment of the moment let it work its magic on us. Keating's eyes glowed, recalling the experience. "You mean it was a bunch of guys sitting around reading poetry?" Knox asked, bewildered. Keating smiled. "Both sexes participated, Mr. Overstreet, and believe me, we didn't simply read. We let it drip from our tongues like honey. And women swooned, spirits roared. Gods were created, gentlemen." The boys stood silent for a moment. "What did the name mean?" Neil asked. "Did you only read dead poets?" "All poetry was acceptable, Mr. Perry. The name simply referred to the fact that, to join the organization, you had to be dead." "What?" the boys said in chorus. "The living were simply pledges. Full membership required a lifetime of apprenticeship. Alas, even I am still a lowly initiate," he explained. The boys looked at one another in amazement. The last meeting must have been 15 years ago, Keating recalled. He looked around again to make sure no one was observing, then turned and strode away. "I say we go tonight," Neil said excitedly when Keating was out of sight. "Everybody in?" "What is this cave he's talking about?" Pitts asked. "It's beyond the stream. I know where it is," Neil answered. "That's miles," Pitts complained. "It sounds boring to me," Cameron said. "Don't come then," Charlie shot back. "You know how many demerits we're talking about here?" Cameron asked Charlie. "So don't come," Charlie said. "Please." Cameron relented. "All I'm saying is we have to be careful. We can't get caught." "Well, no kidding, Sherlock," Charlie retorted sarcastically. "Now who's in?" Neil asked, silencing the argument. "I'm in," Charlie said first. "Me too," Cameron added. Neil looked at Knox, Pitts, and Meeks. But Pitts hesitated. "Well, oh, come on, Pitts," Charlie said. "His grades are hurting, Charlie," Meeks said in Pitts' defense. "Then you can help him, Meeks," Neil suggested. "What is this, a midnight study group?" Pitts asked, still unsure. "Forget it, Pitts," Neil said. "You're coming, Meeks, or your grade hurts too." Everyone laughed. "All right," Meeks said. I mean, I'll try anything once. Except sex, Charlie laughed. Right, Meeks, old boy? And Meeks blushed as the boys laughed and horsed around him. I'm in as long as we're careful, Cameron said. Knox? Charlie continued. I don't know, he said. I don't get it. Oh, come on, Charlie encouraged. It will help you get Chris. It will? Knox looked mystified. How do you figure that? Didn't you hear, Keating? Say the woman swooned. But why? Knox asked, still uncertain. The group started to break up, and Knox followed Charlie towards the door. Why do they swoon, Charlie? Tell me. Why do they swoon? Knox's questions remained unanswered when off in the distance as a bell rang, summoning the boys to dinner. After dinner, Neil and Todd went to study hall and sat down at a table together. Listen, Neil said to his roommate in a hushed voice. I'm inviting you to the society meeting. Neil had noticed that no one had asked Todd if he was in. You can't expect everyone to think of you all the time. Nobody knows you, and you never talk to anyone. Thanks, Todd said, but it's not a question of that. What is it then? Neil asked. I just don't want to come, he stammered. But why? Neil answered. Don't you understand what Keating is saying? Don't you want to do something about it? Neil quickly turned a page in his book as a study proctor walked by, eyeing the boys suspiciously. Yes, Todd whispered, after the proctor was out of earshot. But what, Todd? Tell me, Neil begged. Todd looked down. I don't want to read. What? Neil looked at him. Keating said everybody took turns reading, Todd said. I don't want to do it. God, you really have a problem, don't you? Neil shook his head. How can I hire you to read? I mean, isn't that what this is all about? Expressing yourself? Neil, I can't explain it. Todd blushed. I just don't want to do it. Neil shuffled his papers angrily as he looked at Todd. Then he thought of something. What if you didn't have to read? Neil suggested. What if you just came and listened? That's not the way it works, Todd. That's not the way it works, Todd pointed out. If I join, the guys will want me to read. I know, but what if they said you didn't have to? You mean ask them? Todd's face reddened. Neil, it's embarrassing. No, it's not, Neil said, jumping up from his seat. Just wait here. Neil, Todd called out as the proctor turned and gave him a disapproving look. And Neil was off before Todd could stop him. He slumped miserably in his seat, then opened his history book and began to take notes. End of chapter. Let's start chapter 7. Neil talked in low tones to Charlie and Knox in the dorm room as the evening parade of bedtime activity went on around them. Boys moved around the hallways in pyjamas, carrying pillows under one arm and books under the other. Neil threw his towel over his shoulder, patted Knox on the back, and headed towards his room. He tossed the towel aside and noticed something on his desk that wasn't there before. He hesitated momentarily and picked up an old, well-worn poetry anthology. He opened it and, inside the cover, written in longhand, was the name J. Keating. Neil read aloud the inscription under the signature. Dead Poets. He stretched out on his bed and began skimming the thin yellowed pages of the old text. He read for about an hour, vaguely aware of the hallway sounds quieting down, doors slamming shut, and lights being turned off. There goes Dr. Hager, he's still up, Neil thought, hearing the resident door marshal shuffling and down the hallway, making sure all was quiet. He seemed to stop right in front of Neil's closed door. "Quiet," Dr. Hager said aloud, shaking his head. "Too quiet." Several hours later, certain that everyone was deep in sleep, the boys met at the gnarled old maple tree. They had bundled themselves in winter hats, coats, and gloves, and a few of them had brought flashlights to guide the way. Grrr! The sound of the school hunting dogs startled them as they sniffed his way out of the bushes. "Nice doggy," Pitt said, stuffing some cookies in his mouth and leaving a pile of them on the ground. "Let's move it," he hissed as the dog honed in on the food. "Good thinking, Pitsy," Neil said as the boys crossed the campus under the light of a sky glowing with stars. "It's cold," Todd complained as they escaped the open, wind-blown canvas and moved through an eerie pine forest, looking for the cave. Charlie ran ahead as the others trudged slowly in the cold. "We're almost there," Knox said as they reached the bank of the stream and began searching for the cave that was supposed to exist somewhere amongst the trees and the bush. "Yar, I'm a poet," Charlie shouted, suddenly popping out of nowhere. He had found the cave. "Ah!" Meek shrieked. "Eat it, Dalton," Meek said to Charlie, recovering his composure. "This is it, boys," Charlie smiled. "We're home." The boys crowded into the dark cave and spent several minutes gathering sticks and wood, trying to light a fire. The fire came to life and warmed the barren inferior. The boys stood silently, as if in a holy sanctuary. "I hereby reconvene the Welton chapter of the Dead Poets Society," Neil said solemnly. "These meetings will be conducted by me and by the rest of the new initiates now present. Todd Anderson, because he prefers not to read, will keep minutes of the meetings." Todd winced as Neil spoke, unhappy but unable to speak up for himself. "I will now read the traditional opening message from Society member Henry David Thoreau." Neil opened the book that Keating had left him and read, "I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately." He skipped through the text. "I wanted to live deep and suck out the marrow of life." "I'll second that," Charlie interrupted. "To put out all that was not life," Neil continued, skipping again. "And not, when I came to die, discovered that I had not lived." There was a long silence. "Pledge Overstreet," Neil said. Knox rose, and Neil handed him the book. Knox found another page and read, "If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours." "Yes," Knox said, his eyes blazing. "I want success with Chris." Charlie took the book from Knox. "Come on, man," he said, making a face at Knox. "This is serious." Charlie cleared his throat. "There's the wonderful love of a beautiful maid, and the love of staunch true man, and the love of a baby that's unafraid. All have existed since time began. But the most wonderful love, the love of all loves, even greater than the love for mother, is the infinite, tenderest, passionate love of one dead drunk for another." Author Anonymous. Charlie laughed as he handed the books to Piss. "Here lies my wife. Here let her lie. Now she's at rest, and so am I. Pitts giggled. John Dryden, 1631 to 1700. I never thought those guys had a sense of humour, he said. Pitts handed the book to Todd, while the boys laughed at his joke. Todd froze, holding the book, and Neil quickly took it before the others noticed. Charlie grabbed the book from Neil and read. Teach me to love, go teach thyself more wit. I, chief professor, am of it. The god of love, if such a thing there be, may learn to love from me. The boys awed and ahed at Charlie's alleged prowess. Come on, guys, we gotta be serious, Neil said. Cameron took the book. This is serious, he said, and began to read. We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams, wandering by lonely sea breakers and sitting by desolate streams, world losers and world forsakers, on whom the pale moon gleams. Yet we are the movers and shakers of the world forever, it seems. With wonderful deathless ditties we build up the world's greatest cities, and out of a fabulous story we fashion an empire's glory. One man with a dream and pleasure shall go forth and conquer a crown, and three with a new song's measure come trample an empire down. We in the ages lying in the buried past of the earth build Nineveh with our singing, and Babel with itself with our mirth. Amen, several boys uttered. Shh, hissed the others. Cameron continued. And overthrew them with prophesying to the old of the new world's worth. For each age is a dream that is dying, or one that is coming to birth. Cameron stopped dramatically. That was by Arthur O'Shaughnessy, 1844 to 1881. The boys sat quietly. Meeks took the book and leafed through the pages. Hey, this is great, he said, and started reading seriously. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. That was W.E. Henley, 1849 to 1903. Come on, Meeks, Pitt scoffed. You? What? Meeks said, his look all surprised and innocent. Knox flipped through the book next and suddenly moaned out loud, reading as though to be a version of Chris in the cave. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth. Charlie grabbed the book. Cool it already, Knox, he growled, and the boys laughed. Neil took the book and read to himself for a minute. The boys huddled around the fire that by now was growing dimmer. Shh, Neil said, reading deliberately. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world, for my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset. And though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. From Ulysses, by Tennyson. He concluded, and the boys grew silent, touched by Neil's impassioned reading and Tennyson's statement of purpose. Pitts took the book. He started to pound out a Congo rhythm as he read the poem. Fat black bucks in a wine barrel room, barrel-housed kings with feet unstable, sagged and reeled and pounded on the table, beat an empty barrel with the handle of a broom, hard as they were able, boom, 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 with a silk umbrella and the handle of a broom. Boomy, boomlay, boomlay, boom. Then I had religion, then I had a vision, and I could not turn from that river of decision. Then I saw the Congo creeping through the black, cutting through the forest with a golden track. As Pitts continued to read, the boys were entranced by the compelling rhythm of the poem. They danced and clowned to the beat, jumping and whooping around. Their gestures grew steadily wilder and more ridiculous, and they began to make jungle noises, beating their legs and heads. Pitts continued reading as Charlie led the group, dancing and howling. Out of the cave and into the night, they danced wildly in the forest, swaying with the tall trees and the howling wind. The fire in the cave went out, and the forest turned pitch black. The boys stopped dancing, and as soon as they did, they started to shiver, partly from the cold, partly from the exhilaration they felt from having let their imaginations run free. "We'd better get going," Charlie said. "Before you know it, we'll have to be in class." They snaked through the woods to a clearing that led back to the Welton campus. "Back to reality," Pitts said as they stood facing the campus. "Or something," Neil said. They ran quietly to their dorm, slipped out of their twig that held the rear door open, and tiptoed to their rooms. The next day, several of the night revealers yawned as they sat in Mr. Keating's class. Keating, however, paced vigorously back and forth in the front of the room. "A man is not very tired, he is exhausted. Don't use very sad. Use..." He snapped his fingers and pointed to a boy. "Morose? Good," Keating said with a smile. "Language was invented for one reason, boys." He snapped his fingers again and pointed to Neil. "To communicate?" "No," Keating said. "To woo women. And in that endeavour, laziness will not do. It also won't do in your essays." The class laughed. Keating closed his book, then walked to the front of the room and raised a map that had covered the blackboard. On the blackboard was a quotation. Keating read it aloud to the class. "Creeds and schools and abidance, I permit to speak at every hazard. Nature without check, of original energy." "Uncle Walt again," he said. "Ah, but the difficulty of ignoring those creeds and schools, conditioned as we are by our parents, our traditions, by the modern age. How do we, like Walt, permit our true natures to speak? How do we strip ourselves of prejudices, habits, influences? The answer, my dear lads, is that we must constantly endeavour to find a new point of view." The boys listened intently, and suddenly Keating leaped up on his desk. "Why do I stand here?" he asked. "To feel taller," Charlie suggested. "I stand on my desk to remind myself that we must constantly force ourselves to look at things differently. The world looks very different from up here. If you don't believe it, stand up here and try it. All of you, take turns." And Keating jumped off. All the boys except for Todd Anderson walked to the front of the room, and a few at a time took turns standing on Keating's desk. Keating strolled up and down the aisles expectantly as he watched them. "If you're sure about something," he said, as they slowly returned to their seats, "force yourself to think about it in another way, even if it's wrong or silly. When you read, don't consider only what the author thinks, but take time to consider what you think. You must strive to find your own voice, boys. The longer you wait to begin, the less likely you are to find it at all." Theroux said, "Most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Why be resigned to that? Risk walking new ground. Now, Keating walked to the door as all eyes followed him intently. He looked at the class, then flashed the room lights on and off, over and over again, crying out at a noise that sounded like crashing thunder. "In addition to your essays," he said after this boisterous demonstration, "I want each of you to write a poem, something of your own, to be delivered loud in class. See you Monday." With that, he walked out of the room. The class sat mute and baffled by their eccentric teacher. After a moment, Keating popped his head back in, grinning impishly. "And don't think I don't know this assignment scares you to death, Mr. Anderson, you mole." Keating held out his hand and pretended to send lightning bolts at Todd. The class laughed nervously, somewhat embarrassed for Todd, who forced out a hint of a smile. School ended early on a Friday, and the boys left Keating's class, happy to have the afternoon off. "Let's go up to the bell tower and work on that crystal radio antenna," Pitts said to Meeks as they walked across campus. "Radio Free America." "Sure," Meeks said. They walked past crowds waiting eagerly for the mailboxes to be delivered. A group of boys played lacrosse on the green, and in the distance, Mr. Nolan called out orders to the Oakland crew team practicing at the lake. Knox dropped his books into the basket of his bicycle and cruised around the campus. He approached the Welton gates, checked over his shoulder to make sure he had not been seen, and pedaled furiously out of the gates, over the countryside and into Welton village. Breathing deeply, he looked around for signs of anyone from Welton Academy as he pedaled over to Ridgeway High School. He stopped at a fence, watching as students boarded 3 parked buses. Uniformed members of the marching band, practicing their drum rolls and scales, hopped on the first bus. Well-padded football players pushed and shoved their way onto the second bus. Boarding the third was a bunch of giggling and singing cheerleaders, including Chris Noel. Knox stood at the fence watching her. He saw her rush up to Chet, who was carrying his football gear, and kiss him on the lips. Chet pulled her to him, and she giggled, then ran and climbed into the cheerleaders' bus. Knox got on his bike and slowly pedaled back to Welton. Ever since the dinner at the Danburys, he'd fantasized about seeing Chris again, but not like this, not in a passionate embrace with Chet Danbury. Knox wondered, could he really come up with the words to make Chris swoon over him? Later that afternoon, Todd sat on his bed, one elbow leaning on a pad of paper. He started to write something, scratched it out, ripped off the page, and threw it in the trash. He covered his face in frustration just as Neil came flying through the door. Neil dropped his books on his desk, his face flushed with excitement. "I found it," he cried. "Found what?" Todd asked. "What I want to do, right now, what's really inside of me." He handed Todd a piece of paper. "A Midsummer Night's Dream," Todd read. "What is it?" "The play, dummy." "Yeah, I know that." Todd visibly winced. "And what's it got to do with you?" "They're putting it on at Henley Hall. See? Open tryouts." "So?" Todd said. "So? I'm gonna act," Neil shouted, jumping onto his bed. Ever since I can remember, I've wanted to try it. Last summer, I even tried to go to summer stock auditions, but of course my father wouldn't let me. And now he will," Todd asked, raising his eyebrow. "Hell no, but that's not the point. The point is that for the first time in my whole life, I know what I want. And for the first time, I'm going to do it, whether my father wants me to or not. Carpe diem, Todd." Neil picked up the play and read a couple of lines. He beamed, clenching his fists in the air of joy. "Neil, how are you going to be in a play if your father won't let you?" Todd pressed. "Well, first I've got to get the part, then I'll worry about that. Won't he kill you if you don't let him know you're auditioning?" Yeah, but as far as I'm concerned, Neil said, you won't have to know about any of it. I mean, come on, you know that's impossible, Todd said. Bull, nothing's impossible, Neil said with a grin. Why don't you ask him first? Maybe he'll say yes, Todd suggested. That's a laugh, Neil snickered. If I don't ask, at least I won't be disobeying him. But if you said no before, then, Todd began, whose side are you on anyway? I haven't even got the part yet. Can't I enjoy the idea for a little while? Sorry, Todd said, turning back to his work. Neil sat on his bed and started to read the play. By the way, there's a meeting this afternoon, Neil said. You coming? I guess, Neil said as he grimaced. Neil put down the play and looked over at his roommate. None of what Mr. Keating has to say means anything to you, does it? He asked. What is that supposed to mean? Todd was defensive. Being in the club means being stirred up by things, and you look about as stirred up as a cesspool. You want me out? Is that what you're saying? Todd said angrily. No, Neil said. I want you in. But it means you gotta do something. Don't just say you're in. Todd turned around angrily. Listen, Neil, I appreciate your interest in me, but I'm not like you, he insisted. When you say things, people pay attention. People follow you. I'm not like that. Well, why not? Don't you think you could be? Neil pressed. No, Todd shouted. Oh, I don't know. I'll probably never know. The point is, there's nothing you can do about it, so butt out, alright? I can take care of myself just fine, alright? No, Neil said. No? Todd looked astonished. What do you mean, no? Neil shrugged. Matter-of-factly and repeated, no, I'm not going to butt out. Neil opened his play and began to read again. And Todd just sat and stared at him. Okay, Todd said, defeated. I'll go. Good. Neil smiled and continued reading the play. End of chapter. I think that'd be a lovely place to stop it. Getting really good. I think we definitely started out with the world building, and now we're getting deeper into the characters, who they are, what they want, what they respond to. I really enjoyed that last scene we read. I think it really shows the kind of friendship Neil and Todd are blossoming. As I said, it's a good time to stop. So hopefully some of you are asleep. But for those who aren't, I hope you have a wonderful night. Goodbye.